Good morning, everybody, and it is morning. It's not a very cheerful morning, but we're going to have a really good time with our storybook today. I have been joined by a friend. I don't know whether you can see him in the corner there, looking quite menacing, looking over there at something, not sure what's going on. But I've been told he's a wild thing and he's brought his book with him for us to share today. Now, last week I shared a book with you that had a lot of text and a few illustrations. And this book here, Where the Wild Things Are, by Maurice Sendak, was illustrated by the author as well, and is famous for its absolutely gorgeous illustrations. And you can see that they've been done with possibly pencil crayon or something by hand, and they've been cross-hatched, which is a technique that some of you will have learned in art, and some of you will learn next year. Now, the interesting thing about this book is that the illustrations tell the story, and the story is quite minimal. There aren't many words to it. The illustrations help to fill in what the author has deliberately left out. So let's begin. This is Where the Wild Things Are by Maurice Sendak. And as you can see, there is no blurb at all, just a very beautiful picture. So you could spend some time looking at this picture and using it as the blurb. What could you tell about the story? Who is this wild thing? What is a wild thing? Where are they? Why is there a boat with beautiful yellow sails? Why is it night time? So there's lots that you could tell. So there is a blurb, it's just not a written one with words. So you can see more of this beautiful cross hatching as you open the book and look at the pages. It's a few seconds to go in. So we begin with a little boy called Max. And it says here, the night Max wore his wolf suit and made mischief of one kind. You can see he's making mischief. He's made a den. He's nailing things into the family's walls. He's strung up his teddy bear. He's making mischief. And another. Here's the other kind of mischief. Chasing the family dog. He's stuck up pictures of something that might look a bit familiar to you if you remember the first page. He's wearing his suit. He's chasing it with a fork. So he's making one kind of mischief or another. His mother called him Wild Thing, and Max said, I'll eat you up. So he was sent to bed without eating anything. Oh dear. So he's been sent to bed with no tea. You can see there in his bedroom, you can see that moon from the picture we saw at the beginning through the window. And you can see his bedroom looks quite bare. There's just a small plant on the table there, and the window is open showing the night time, and he looks very, very cross. But you can see something interesting has happened now. That night in Max's room, a forest grew, and you can see that picture has started to go outside of the edges of the illustration, and it's spreading, and there are leaves on his ceiling, which is very unusual, and Max is starting to look a little bit less annoyed and a little bit more thoughtful. And grew. See, it's spilling more off the pages, and Max is looking a little bit cheeky and a little bit more thoughtful. Oh, he's got whiskers. Did he have whiskers before? Let's check. Yes, he did. I've only just spotted those. And grew until his ceiling hung with vines, and the walls became the world all around. So you can see that the moon has stayed the same, but now the whole page is full of those pictures that we saw in the blurb. The trees, the moon, and now he's walking through the forest, looking more and more like a wild creature. Have I turned over 2 pages by mistake? No. And an ocean tumbled by with a private boat for Max, and he sailed off through night and day. So he sailed through a night, he's sailing through a day, and he's looking much, much happier now in his little costume, sailing on that sea. And you can see that the picture is now spread across 1.5 pages. and in and out of weeks and almost over a year to where the wild things are. So he's been sailing in and out of time to these wild things. And there's one of them, looking very strange. And when he came to the place where the wild things are, they roared their terrible roars and gnashed their terrible teeth. And I think terrible there is being used in the sense meaning big and a little bit scary. Because they look quite friendly, don't they? They don't look terrible. Max doesn't look frightened. And rolled their terrible eyes and showed their terrible claws. Till Max said, "Be still!" and tamed them with a magic trick. Oh, clever Max. Well done, Max. The magic trick was of staring into all their yellow eyes without blinking once, and they were frightened and called him the most wild thing of all. So Max is wilder than all of those wild things. That's quite impressive, isn't it? Very wild. It's very wild. And made him king of all the wild things. There he is with his crown and his sceptre in his hand, being king, and they're bowing down to him. And now, cried Max, let the wild rumpus start. Oh, let's find out what a rumpus is. You might be able to tell from the pictures. Oh, there they are having that rumpus in front of the moon. It looks like they're dancing around, having a lovely time, dancing in the moonlight. And there they are, dancing again, climbing trees. And you can see that maybe the sun's coming up because it looks a bit brighter. There they are, continuing to rumpus. And if you had more time, you could look very carefully at all these different pictures and what's happened and what's different between each of them. Now stop, Max said, and sent the wild things off to bed, just like he'd been sent off to bed earlier, without their supper, just like he was earlier. So Max is feeling very in control of the situation, I think. And Max, the king of all the wild things, was lonely and wanted to be where someone loved him best of all. He's looking all lonely and sad. There, all around, from far away across the world, he smelled good things to eat. So he gave up being a king of where the wild things are. But the wild things cried, "Oh, please don't go. We'll eat you up. We love you so." And Max said, "No," because that's not a very good reason to stay somewhere, is it, to be eaten all up. The wild things roared their terrible roars and gnashed their terrible teeth and rolled their terrible eyes and showed their terrible claws. But Max stepped into his private boat and was waved goodbye. So they might be hungry, but they're also very polite and have remembered their manners. And sailed back over a year and in and out of weeks and through a day. And you can see there that the illustrations, the pictures are getting smaller and smaller, returning back to their own page. And into the night of his very own room, where he found his supper waiting for him. Oh, there's his supper on his table. His mum must have snuck in while he was doing all his imagining. And it was still hot. So his mum loved him, really. She was making his tea. I think he was just getting in the way a bit, wasn't he, while she was busy. So there we are. There's where the wild things are. And here's our wild thing. And I think I love him. But I want to know for sure. Are you going to eat me all up? No. That's good news, isn't it? Stay safe, everybody. Make sure that you're looking after your families. And if you're all getting a bit on top of each other, try to use your imaginations to escape to somewhere else for a bit. Just like Max did in his land of the wild things. Bye-bye.